Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. My name is Sam Lucero, and I'm an analyst in the IoT research program at Omdia. I'm going to provide a quick IoT market update. Moving from left to right across these three charts, I first want to stress that Omdia believes the market will grow strongly over the period from 2019 through 2025. And this growth should benefit all the main IoT application segments, with smart home and smart building applications comprising the largest shares of the IoT device installed base by 2025. Shifting gears to the middle chart, if we focus on cellular connected IoT devices specifically, the major change from 2019 through 2025 will be a transition from a slight majority 2G share to an overwhelming majority 4G share. It's clear looking at in-market deployments that 3G never gained significant traction in the IoT market, and that 5G will still represent only a very small share of the market for IoT by 2025. Finally, staying with cellular IoT, it's important to stress that the center of gravity of the global cellular IoT market is clearly in China. The three Chinese incumbent telcos had by far the largest installed base of cellular IoT connections in 2019, representing nearly 72% of the total installed base, and this is unlikely to change dramatically in the near term. Turning now to the impact of COVID-19 on the IoT market, our key message is that this impact will be complex and not all bad. 5 key points to note are: 1, in Omdia's view, the impact of COVID-19 on IoT will be more one of delay than derailment. 2, enterprises and providers should be ready for a shift in emphasis in some areas of IoT over the coming 24 months and negative impact on some sectors. 3, there will be positive impact on parts of the IoT market as the virus situation creates a need for and demonstrates the value of connected solutions in new areas. I'll talk more about those in a minute. 4, stakeholder responses so far have focused on commercial support, economic stimulus measures, and repurposing of IoT solutions to support the fight against COVID-19. And 5, it is still early days for the COVID-19 situation, and much will depend on whether the virus returns in repeated waves. In short, even taking COVID-19 effects into account, Omdia forecasts the overall IoT market, measured here as the global installed base of devices and millions of devices, to grow strongly over the forecast period. Specifically, we project the market will grow from about 7.4 billion devices cumulatively in 2019 to about 20.3 billion devices in 2025, for a compound annual growth rate of 18.3%. Let's look specifically at IoT sectors likely to experience a negative impact. First, we expect lower IoT project investments in utilities, as well as industrial and transport applications. This is due to a slowdown in investment and scale-up plans due to limited access to capital, cash preservation strategies, and demand constraints. In many cases, we expect this is a postponement of projects rather than outright cancellation. Likewise, limited manpower will likely slow rollouts of smart meters, with communicating meter shipments from 2019 through 2025 potentially falling up to 28%. Second, we expect lower spending on consumer-connected devices and services. Lower demand from constrained consumer spending will impact sales of cars, connected home appliances, smart TVs, and shared mobility equipment, such as connected bikes. Third, we expect a disruption of supply chains for IoT components and devices. This involves manufacturing facilities providing key components either shutting down or limiting production due to social distancing and lockdowns, as well as shifting production capacity over to COVID-19 related outputs, such as ventilators and personal protective equipment. Conversely, there are some sectors likely to experience a positive impact as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, there's an obvious benefit for connected healthcare solutions. We believe the market for telehealth remote consultation and diagnostic services and systems is seeing massive growth. We're seeing growth in remote patient monitoring in both clinical and non-clinical settings. There's a high take-up of connected wearables among the so-called worried well and for infection contact tracing. And there is new public health and vaccine development value creation from connected consumer healthcare device data. We also see greater use of robotics, drones, and generally in applications that incorporate autonomous operation. Drones are being used for public security, monitoring, and disinfection. Robots are being used in hospitals and public areas for disinfection. Autonomous vehicles are being leveraged for last mile delivery in infection hotspots and lockdown zones. And in general, we see a long-term trend for accelerating use of autonomous technologies in retail use cases and in factories. Finally, there's a strong growth expected for contactless technologies and biometric solutions. Going contactless is increasingly becoming an imperative in the COVID-19 world. We expect faster uptake of biometric security solutions, such as facial recognition. The use of remote temperature monitoring devices and solutions is becoming more widespread in public spaces, commercial buildings, shops, as well as in clinical settings. And fundamentally, we're seeing accelerated growth in contactless payments. Shifting gears again, I'd like to take a few minutes to look ahead at future possible projections for the IoT market. More specifically, I'd like to talk to you about IoT data exchanges. These are also sometimes referred to as IoT data marketplaces. What are we talking about? Fundamentally, data exchanges enable two or more organizations to expose, discover, share, and potentially monetize data with each other. I'll explain this in more detail. Now, data exchanges are not a new concept in themselves. They are used widely in industries such as online advertising and credit risk scoring, but they are just starting to be used in the context of IoT data exchange. And they represent the potential to move from our current model of siloed individual applications to federated use of IoT data. Let's take the example of a car maker with a connected car telematics program. This is a pretty typical deployment pattern for IoT. A company deploys remote equipment in the field, collects data from these units through some form of communications infrastructure, and feeds that data into server-side applications, perhaps in the cloud. This is all siloed data. In fact, people have referred to our so-called Internet of Things as the intranet of things, or the Internet of Silos. And as long as the IoT depends on each corporate adopter, application service provider, or end user deploying their own remote connected assets in the field, there will always be scalability challenges, and I would argue restraints on the ultimate degree of innovation that can be achieved for IoT applications. What data exchanges enable is for the data from those connected assets in the field to be shared with third-party stakeholders who can make use of the data for entirely new use cases and applications. This could include usage-based insurance offers for the vehicle owners or smart city applications that use connected vehicle data to enhance traffic flow in the city. So what are the main features and functionality that data exchanges provide to enable market participants to expose, discover, share, and monetize their IoT data? First, data exchanges provide connectors to the data provider's back-end systems and enable the provider to package and publish their data, describe their data, discuss with interested parties the details of their data and the commercial terms under which they are offering their data, license out their data, and actually distribute their data to data consumers in a controlled fashion. And obviously to have the means to monetize their data, that is to get paid. On the customer side, a data consumer, in this case an insurance company, needs the ability to search for relevant data and data providers, contact the data providers to initiate requests for their data, assess the quality and relevance of the data, and discuss these with the data provider, obtain licenses for the data, acquire the data, and finally, if needed, pay for the data if there is a fee. I should also add that a key stakeholder in IoT data exchanges are companies that provide value-added services to enhance the data in some fashion. A typical example would be an analytics service provider that uses proprietary algorithms or differentiated processes to analyze the raw data coming from the data provider. The analytics vendor or any other vendor of enhanced services could be an entirely third-party entity or could be the same company providing the data exchange. For example, Deutsche Telekom provides data analytics services as an optional service on its Data Intelligence Hub data exchange. While these types of services will be optional, they will also likely be important means of ensuring that the data transacted on the exchange can be used effectively. And I thank you for your time and interest. Have a great day.